How's it going, everybody? My name is Brad Thomas of Schmoedown Central. We're going to be breaking down everything that happened this week in the Schmoedown. Apologies for getting this up a little late. I've been very busy at work. This might be one of a shorter episode as well, just because I'm a little pinched for time. But let's break down some of these matches. It seemed to be the week of the newcomers. On Tuesday, we got 4 first-time competitors. We had Amy and Frank of Box Office Breakdown, the new incarnation of them, taking on the new incarnation of Superhero News, which consisted of Sean and Sabina. Round 1 was not the kindest to Team Box Office Breakdown, as they could not pull together too many questions. As for Superhero News, they had both had solid rounds, going 6 out of 8 for Sean and 5 out of 8 for Sabina. On Box Office Breakdown, though, Amy could only get 1 out of 8 questions correctly, and Frank got 5 out of 8, which stayed with the pack. A rough go for Amy in this round, but still, they were not out of this one by any shot. In round 2, Superhero News was up to spin, and they got Disney movies. Sabina really liked that. They ended up sticking with that category. They go 4 for 6 in this round, getting a total of 7 out of a possible 12 points. They did give up a 1-point steal on the Milan villain, and did miss another 2-point question with the voice actress. But other than that, a solid round, again picking up some more points and extending their lead for the other spin in round 2. Box Office Breakdown ends up getting Spinner's Choice, and they go with new releases. Seeing as they break down the box office each week made perfect sense. They go 5 out of 6, scoring 8 out of a possible 12 points, but they did give up a 2-point steal on the Matt Damon cameo. Unfortunately, just kind of went with their gut, not realizing it was the Loki character, not the Thor or the Odin character, which Sam Neill portrayed. Fortunately, missing that 2-point and giving that up in that round. This made it 20-15 Superhero News going into round number 3, and Box Office Breakdown had some work to do. They needed to get a lot of their questions correct, in particular the 2 and 3. Amy ends up getting Spielberg, named after her dog, as she mentioned in your post-game interview, and ends up getting that one unfortunately incorrect. Frank was up with 2000s, gets that correct, but they need to hit their 3-point in the 90s category. Could not quite pull up the correct answer, and unfortunately, they lose via TKO. Superhero News wins it 20-18. So Superhero News improves to 1-0. Sean going 6 out of 8 for 75% individually, and Sabina going 5 for 8 for 63% individually, although Sabina did pull a lot of questions in that Disney category. As for Box Office Breakdown, unfortunately, Amy goes 1 for 9 for 11% individually, and Frank going 6 for 9 for 67% individually. Box Office Breakdown did show tons of potential, though, and Amy just couldn't quite get all the answers she had in her head. She knew a lot of them, just couldn't quite pull them, like the Catch Me If You Can question with Christopher Walken. So what does it all mean going forward? Well, Box Office Breakdown, we're not too sure what they're going to have to do. Of course, they're going to need to probably get at least another win on another probably winless team, and they'll see what happens with that. As for Superhero News, going big and calling out team action. Ben Bateman, Andrew Guy, of course, on suspension, so we'll have to see what happens with him. But calling out team action, we'll have to see if that goes forward in what's in their cards in the future. In the Friday match, we had Bonnie Sunshine Somerville coming back at an 0-1 record versus the fan, Jeannine the Machine, now part of the Viper Squad with Jay Washington. So let's see how this one turned out. Round 1 saw them all going back and forth, until the last 2 questions, where Jeannine got questions 7 and 8 correct. Bonnie couldn't quite get the Resident Evil thing, should have probably used a repeat on that question. And again, even for the Paul Rudd question, where she could come up with Rudd, but not quite Paul Rudd, again, her being out of the league for quite some time potentially hurt her in this round. Round 2, Bonnie ends up spinning first, getting Spinner's Choice and choosing Julia Roberts movies. She does go 4 for 4 in this round, but only getting 5 out of 8 questions. Would have liked to get a little bit more points on the board when you do get them all correct. Again, she couldn't quite pull the questions. She had them there, especially the Afghanistan one near the end. But again, solid round for Bonnie, again, improving that 4 and 4 out of all the questions asked. Jeannine, on the other hand, she gets animated movies. Unfortunately, only goes 1 for 4 in this round. She gets 2 out of a possible 8 points, and Bonnie actually ends up stealing one with the Madagascar Zoo being in Central Park. This led to Bonnie leading 10-8 going into round 3, so Jeannine had to pick up some of the pace and get some questions correct. She does so with our first question in comic book movies, without breaking a sweat, getting that first question correct. As for Bonnie, it goes to her. She gets 2000s movies, couldn't quite get the question correct. She goes for rom-coms, again, not quite being able to get the question correct. And then with comedy, she again could not get it correct. I don't feel like there's not too many rounds and questions where people end up getting all 3 of their 3, 5, and 2 pointers incorrect. As for Jeannine though, she could not pull her last 2 questions either, getting the incorrect Will Smith question and the incorrect 80s question. This led to us all going to sudden death. They each get the first question correct, and the second question is where everything changes, where Bonnie ends up saying a day to remember instead of a walk to remember, and Jeannine coming up with the big question, pulling out the win in sudden death overtime. So Jeannine improves to 1-0, scoring 10 out of 17 questions she was personally asked correct for 59%. As for Bonnie, she goes down now to 0-2, getting 9 out of 17 questions she got asked personally correct for 53%. So what does it all mean going forward in the league? Well, it means that Jeannine, she wants to call out Mr. and Mrs. Whitebread, as she so called them. That would be Mike Kalinowski and Brianne Chandler. We'll have to see what happens there with their team. There's some kind of play on words there. Are they going to team up? Are they not going to team up? We'll have to wait and see. But basically challenging Mike Kalinowski is Jay Washington getting inside her head to get revenge on Brianne for leaving him. We'll have to see what happens there. As for Bonnie, she really wants a rematch because it was a close match. And again, you could see the rivalry and everything. And I think once Bonnie gets a hang of more of the game and the rules and the repeats and the challenges, I think she will be a force to be reckoned with in this league. But Jeannine, a new star is born in this match, that is for sure. Now, as for on Tuesday, we have the Kingsmen versus the World's Finest. As of right now, we don't know exactly who's in those teams. There's speculation that it could be Brianne and Mike or something involved, especially for the World's Finest team. Who are the Kingsmen? We're not too sure just yet. I'm interested to see who that is. You guys might know by the time this episode comes out. But at the moment, I'm not too sure who it is, and I'm excited to find out who that could be. But on Friday, we got 2 matches going up. On the undercard, you got Makuga versus Scarpino. Great match. If you're a Patreon subscriber like I am, you may have actually already seen this match, but you have Makuga going into this one 7-8 record versus Scarpino, who's 0-2. Looking for a big win from Scarpino, but if Makuga can find his Makuga magic that he has had in the past with his on-point guesses, he could take the victory. But again, it could be a very close match because these people have similar type strengths. And then for the main match, we have William Bibiani versus Drew McWeeny, 2 fierce competitors in the movie trivia Schmoedown, 2 of the people who are touted as potential title winners, which is going to be very exciting to see these 2 people with such wealth of knowledge go head to head. It's going to be a close match, Bibiani, McWeeny. My money's on McWeeny at the moment, but again, this could be anyone's match, and Bibiani could very well come away with victory. As for our play of the match has got to be the OT win with a walk to remember by Jeannine the Machine, coming in clutch when she needed to the most and getting that question correct. As for our misplay though, that's going to be part of the same question where Bonnie Somerville actually ends up saying the wrong word, writing down a day to remember as opposed to a walk to remember, and unfortunately gets that one correct in overtime. A crucial mistake and just a big mind slip on her part. But for our player of the week, we're actually going to go from the T match. We're going to go with Sabina. Although she didn't have the best percentage, going 5 for 8 as opposed to 6 for 8 with Sean, she did come up big in that round 2 with the Disney questions. Although missing a couple, it was her that was mainly pulling a lot of those answers. So she is our player of the week for this week's episode of Schmoedown Central. So that is it for this week's episode of Schmoedown Central. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, like, comment, let me know your thoughts on everything that happened this week in the Schmoedown. Also, let me know your thoughts on what's going to happen going forward. What are your predictions for next week? Interested to see what you have to say. Again, apologies for getting this up a little later. I'm very busy. But that is it. Again, follow me on Twitter at 94BradThomas or at SchmoedownCent for everything Schmoedown related. You're going to want to check that out. If I put up any Twitter polls, I'd love to hear your feedback on some of those when I do put those up. So that is it. Again, hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and that is it. And I will talk to you all next week on Schmoedown Central.